Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 193 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the, some of the positive things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long. We're coming to you once again from the worldwide headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. We are very happy to have Locke Bell on the podcast today and looking forward to hearing about his personal, professional, and leadership journey. If you don't know Locke, he is the retired district attorney of Gaston County. He's a Rotarian. We happen to attend church together, and he's just someone that I know who is committed to our local community. Locke, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here.
Absolutely. So, the first question we like to get on with so our listeners just tell us a little bit about yourself. Anything that you'd like to share?
Briefly, I grew up in Greensboro and moved here in 1984.
Okay.
And it's funny, Gastonia was not the place I would have thought I'd end up, but it has been the greatest place in the world. I have absolutely loved living in Gaston County.
Yeah. All right. So that was too short, and I know there's so much more about telling your story, but let's, get into
Well, I went to Chapel Hill. I know you went to State. I went to Chapel Hill.
We can cut that part. We'll just edit that part out.
Graduated with a degree in religion.
You know what? I don't think I knew that part.
Yeah. 10 years. Yeah, we used to meet in catacombs under Keenan Stadium, in the middle of the night. And then about when I was 30, I went back to law school at Wake Forest.
Okay.
Got out of law school in late 83, passed bar, and then came down here.
All right. So what? All right. So I have two quick questions. So, the first question we like to typically ask: what inspired you to get into your line of work, career? But what led you to religion first, and then I would think maybe it should always be but lawyers need religion later. But I'm just kidding. So, just tell us that story of going from that to and then deciding to go to law school.
I don't know what led me into religion except my interest in God.
Yeah. Okay.
And first, when I was at Chapel, I had this idea that you had to be perfectly religious in order to major in religion. And finally, I figured out, no, you don't have to be perfect. You can be as flawed as I am. And
that grace thing is wonderful, isn't it?
Isn't it wonderful? And then went on an archaeological expedition in Beersheba in the Negev.
Really?
And
wow,
that was in 72. And that's when I said, okay, yes, I do want to major in religion.
Interesting.
And then law school, well, okay, my mother was a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
My uncle was a lawyer. My grandfather, my great-grandfather died. He died, I don't know, it keeps going back. So I was brought up to be a lawyer. I got away from it. And then, so when I got around 30, I decided to be a lawyer in spite of my family rather than because of my family. But it took about 7 or 8 years of doing other things. So that's how I ended up in law school.
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with that, right? So my dad went to engineering school, uncle went to engineering school, brother went to engineering school, sister-in-law went to engineering school, and then I married a Tar Heel. So. I'm not sure how all that how that happened, but that was for better for me. So I'm familiar with that in spite of,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, all right, long professional career. What led you to the DA's office?
Well, when I was a kid in Greensboro, I would actually, as a young kid, let's say 10, 12 years old, I would hitchhike downtown, which you could do back then. And I would go to the courthouse, and I would go and sit in court and watch.
Wow.
And I was this little kid, little towhead blonde sitting in the back watching court. And I was fascinated by it. My mother had quit practicing because she had 5 kids. But I was fascinated. So when I went to law school, I knew that criminal law was going to be my main area of interest. Now, I did others, but criminal was the key interest.
Was there anything that, besides that, something that inspired you, a movie, a book, or something? I know I love the movie. Gosh, what's it with Henry Fonda? 12 Angry Men. Man, I love that movie. Anything like that catch you, or is it just? I can imagine as a young kid sitting in a courthouse a lot. That would be interesting.
No, there was nothing that I can think of.
Okay.
That grabbed me. Now, I did come along during the 60s, so were these idealistic we're going to fight evil. We're going to do that. But you learn very quickly that evil is on both sides.
Oh, sure. Yeah. What about through that journey, leadership lessons, biggest lessons you took from that career, just anything, we like talking about community and leadership here. So anything that jumps out you can think of, the things that you took with you that helped you, or you might want to pass along to our listeners, leadership journey, leadership lessons, or anything, or frankly, any lessons that you learned through that time?
I think a couple of them are, if you believe something's right and you believe you got to take a position, don't look over your shoulder. Don't count on anybody, because they're behind you. They're not going to be when trouble hits. Okay, I'll give an example. This is from 50-some years ago. Greensboro Country Club, I grew up, was segregated, as all Southern country clubs were. When, after reading the autobiography of Sammy Davis Jr., which had more impact on me, reading what he went through in the discrimination, it's like, okay, Lord, I will take somebody to the country club. And my black roommate and I went Sunday afternoon. Come on, and we went. And it was not accepted well at the country club. It's one of those, and people that I thought would have agreed with me did not. But once it was done, and the walls fell.
Yeah.
And in every Southern town, somebody had to be the one to do that. I mean, that's just one example of don't look over your shoulder.
Don't look for confirmation from others.
Don't look for confirmation.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, okay, Lord, I did it. And move on.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. When I hear stories like that or read things like that, I'd like to think that I would have the same guts, but I don't know if I would. I've learned that we can be all high and mighty until you're in those situations, right? You don't really know what you would do. So that's good. Well
sure
done.
There are other times when I chickened out.
Well,
that was one where I'm just using it as an example.
Well, we're not going to talk about those on Gas. That's great. So, listen, I know you. I've known you for a long time through Rotary, through church, through your community work. Where in that journey did community start to be impactful to you? I mean, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I think being the district attorney of a town, a county, an area puts you in a position where you're the face of the county, so to speak. You're the face of law enforcement, so to speak. But where did something occur? Was it already in your DNA from when you growing up a certain way, or things you saw? But why? Because everybody doesn't do that. Why did community become, in service in the community, become part of that journey?
I think a part of that is the DNA from my family. My mother, raising 5 kids, was also head of the Girl Scouts.
Right.
The Guard, every single thing, she was doing this. And so I was instilled from her. My father was one of those who went to work and supported the family, very 50s and 60s. So I think I got it from my mother. When I moved here, I came to work with the district attorney's office, and then quickly started doing community theater. But as I met people here, I really liked the people, and I liked the community. So at some point, I'm asked to be on this board. Okay, one of the first ones was like Salvation Army.
Okay.
And I was on the Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club board. Another time it was Habitat. I'm out working on the houses, and somebody says, hey, would you like to be on our board? Love to. And so it was participating in things in the community led to being asked to be on the boards. And it just kind of snowballed.
And is there something that stands out? I know a big one for you is the, is it Reading Soulmates, or is it the Literacy Council stuff that?
Yeah, I taught in that period between undergrad and law school, and I left out a whole bunch of what I did, much of which needs to be left out. But anyway, I taught during that period, but I'm a firm believer that education is the absolute key.
Yeah.
And my wife was on the board of the Literacy Council. She's been on a lot of boards around here. And then when our Rotary Club presented the opportunity for Rotarians to go to elementary school and work with these kids in reading, I thought, this is perfect. I'm retired. This is perfect. I have loved it. I laugh. I say they gave me second grade reading because I couldn't handle third grade. And so it's been a beautiful combination. This is what you see in this community. You have the Literacy Council and Rotary working together to bring these kids a chance.
Yeah.
And that, there's another area, I'm on the board of the Dream Center.
Okay.
And that's another one where it is taking kids and saying, hey, you've got it. You've got what it takes. Let's work together on that. And I actually, a number of years ago, just one hot July day, walked in the front door, and Roxanne gave me a tour, and I just went, yeah, this is a place I want to be involved. And that's how that lives.
Yeah, and we also, I think we have the luxury too, both of us, with the double connection with the Literacy Council, because the Literacy Council is located in a First Methodist building, right? So we kind of get it from. Actually, it's sandwiched between Rotary and physically at Rotary and in our church. So several things you've mentioned, and again, from knowing you in the community, feels like children and youth are things that you seem to gravitate to. Is that a fair assessment? A lot of things I know you've been involved with, and what you've mentioned is
that's
kind
a
of
very
focused
fair
on
assessment. It's help the children. Get an education. That's the primary thing. B, encouragement and safety. But it's adults. You're on your own. If nobody helps you, I'm sorry, but I'm going to work with these kids.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to do everything, right? I mean, I have found myself, not recently, but years past, I found myself involved in too many things, and I couldn't get to the mission that I really wanted to get to because I was just spread too thin. So I think I think getting involved and making an impact, sometimes over time you got to learn to say no so you can make the right impact. And I learned that I've learned that the hard way. So all these things, professional career, community involvement, church, is there something, maybe both professionally and community focus, is there something that stands out that you look back and say, man, I'm most proud of, or that really fulfilled the mission, my personal mission of helping the community, or something professionally, something that stands out for you?
Wow, that's in some ways, yes, in some ways, no. In other words, I've been involved in, say, with Habitat Board, with Salvation Army. But there were other people. It was never me. It was always it was always a group. And
sure. Well, it could be
Rotary.
Could be just an organization and something that you were involved with.
Yeah, the Rotary water projects.
Oh yeah.
Don Warren led those. I had a part, but it was only because of Don. And let me stop and say one thing, kind of in this area. One of the beauty of some of the things, I'm now doing a lot of volunteer work at Daniel Stowe. And I look at, and I tell people, like at Dream Center and at Stowe, the beauty is you give me a vehicle to serve.
Yeah.
I don't have on my own any way to serve this community. It is only through these agencies that are already going, and I find one that I identify with that I can step in, like the Reading Soulmates. If I had walked up to the school and say, hi, I want to teach kids to read, they'd have called the police. But working with the Literacy Council and with Rotary, so that's the beauty.
Yeah, it is.
Rotary will give you more areas where you can volunteer in the community. And so I think for me it's been looking around and finding those that fit my interest and just diving in.
Yeah, that's good. I do appreciate that, because you're right. You don't have to look you don't have to look really hard, really very hard with the organizations around in our community. There's really no excuse not to find something that someone who's looking and has the time and the resources to support something. Yeah, you can find it. You just have to put a little effort in to find that. What about like anything you would attribute a key factor to your success? Listen, by all means, I would consider you a success, my eyes, a mentor from afar, so to speak. Something that, maybe a young person is listening and key factor in your success, professionally and community-wise up to this point that you could share with somebody who might be listening?
It sounds counter to logic, but I think much of my success comes from early failures. I got fired from my first job out of college. And getting fired, and lying on my back hurting, and then I picked myself up and was kind of like, okay, if that's the worst getting fired is, and it ended up being an absolute blessing. I won't go into the whole story, but it was an absolute blessing. It opened up new doors. And I've talked to many people who've been fired and say, man, it was great when, I didn't know it at the time. And then later, when I came here, I worked as an assistant DA under Joe Brown, and old people like me would know what I mean by that. And I got fired from there. So I got fired from the DA's office, first job out of law school. I was not the first nor the last. It just it happened. He would come in, and I laugh. I said, later I ended up sitting in the chair that I'd been fired from 20-some years before. But when you get fired or any kind of failure and you dust yourself off, then you're not as afraid of failure.
Yeah.
And so you can take chances because the worst that happens, I've already whooped. And so side investment businesses, different things I've done besides practice law. Oh, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Worst that can happen is it doesn't work. Well, and so I think that my message to young people is it's okay to fail. Maybe you need to fail.
Yeah.
Get it over with, realize it's not that bad. And it's amazing how many people my age, when we sit down and talk honestly, well, I got fired too.
Yeah.
And it was good after I got over it.
Well, I think it's interesting. I know Joel and I often talk about GSM as an example. I think outwardly, some people think everything is so smooth and every decision we made is great. Good, my goodness, if people could see the things that we've tried to do or implemented or have just absolutely was disasters. I mean, so it's just, I also think we live in a world now that, gosh, if you're not a success by age 23, you're a failure. You haven't reached all your goals. And gosh, I do think it's most success. It's a long game. It's doing something, screwing it up. Then you get 2 or 3 steps forward, maybe a step back, and over time, is how that happens. And I do think some failures. I do believe that. I'm agreeing with you that can be helpful in the long run, and if you can see how you can overcome that.
One of the things you come and made me think about, if I have a slogan in life, I try to avoid slogans, they can be dangerous, but life is a marathon and not a sprint.
Right.
And I want young people to understand that. It is a marathon. And you're talking about the people who, if I'm not a success by this age.
If I'm not a YouTube influencer on top of the list by the age of 25, I'm a complete and total failure.
Yeah. And I left 50 years ago right now. I love it. 50 years ago right now, I was pumping gas for Exxon and making $2.50 an hour and having the time of my life. But I was a failure because I'd graduated from Carolina and I'm pumping gas. Well, actually,
isn't that what every person who graduates from Carolina does?
Not all of them work. Not all Carolina grads can reach that high. Some of us can only change tires.
All right, all you listeners, I'm just kidding.
But I was actually, I had gone back to do my student teaching, and I was waiting to get a job at a school.
Yeah.
But I laugh. I said, and now when I volunteer, I don't get paid anything. I made $250 back then.
Yeah.
But life is a marathon, and it's a fun one if you treat it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. We do live in, I'll reiterate that a little bit. I know a lot of young people. My kids are 27, 25, and 20, so I interacted with a lot of their friends over the years, and I wish I could have had a different, the perspective I have now. God, I wish I could have had that when I was their age, because even then I was like, things that I thought were disasters just weren't. Mm-hmm. Right? But it's at the time you think things are such a much bigger deal, and decisions you make will impact your future, but they're not. Most of them are not going to.
So I had to tell somebody recently who was dealing with something. I said, the mountain in your windshield a year from now will be the molehill in your rearview mirror.
Oh, that's good. I need to write that
How
one
many
down.
times?
I don't need to do a quote this week, Amber. That's a good one. Wow. Okay. Maybe we should just go ahead and stop the podcast. We'll start right on that one. So, I like to ask this question. I mean, look, what's next for Locke and the community, and what's on your radar?
Well, as you may know, I do a lot of volunteering down at Daniel Stowe, and I love it down there. And the people I work with and the other volunteers, there's so many people that are down there that had fascinating careers, and they're just very interesting people. So I said, I don't want to be in charge. I really don't. At this point in my life, I do not want to be in charge of anything. I just want to volunteer. So I mow. I help get rid of invasive species. I help park cars when they have overflow parking and direct traffic during the road races. And I'm just as happy as can be down there. Matter of fact, tomorrow afternoon, I will be down there mowing. It's too wet today. I enjoy the teaching and at H.H. Beam. Well, first of all, I live out in the country, on land, and I love growing plants. And I just am happiest in the world growing plants. And H.H. Beam, they had a bunch of dead plants. So I went to the principal, sure. So I've been replacing dead plants. And back when it was so dry and hot, I had to drive down there twice a week with gallon milk jugs full of water and walk around and water the plants. But working with them more on some landscaping, just doing volunteer. Yeah,
and if our listeners, if you're wondering, H.H. Beam Connection is our Rotary Club. I guess that's the school we sponsor here locally, and a lot of organizations do things like that. But H.H. Beam happens to be a school that we're really involved with through our Rotary Club. And I don't. For me, I would have never got connected to H.H. Beam. I might have got it because I've been connected with the schools my kids have attended. Right. All for a very long time. Every school, my wife and I are very involved. Well, schools. We're recording this on the 12th of August, first day of school. This is the third year in a row. I don't have any kids in the Gaston County schools anymore, right? For 3 years now. So we kind of know what's going on, but we don't get those calls anymore from, I'm forgetting his name all of a sudden, the communications guy. That's embarrassing. But, we used to love those calls, especially when it was a snow day. But my point is, that's another example of Rotary connecting us, right, with something that I wouldn't have been connected with.
Rotary has given me a lot of opportunities to get involved in the community.
Yeah, me too.
It's really been
without a doubt
porthole to a lot of.
And you mentioned Honduras and the water project and Don Warren. Maybe there's two things that really stand out for me that I've been able to do in Rotary. One was I got to go spend a week with Don in Honduras when I was president, and then the other big one for me was those the Flight of Honor. Trips that we did. I was able to go on 4 of them and taking World War II veterans to D.C. to their monuments and memorials. So, but listen, there's so many other things that have impacted me, but those two really stand out for me. And again, never would have without Rotary. Never would have even knew that kind of stuff was even going on. Much less get to go do them. So just volunteering. I also think it's important. What would you say to somebody who's getting ready to retire and they're looking for something to do? I know something that I'm well aware of is retirement can look so different for so many people, but I think it's just so important to have something to do. And I don't mean that lightly, because I've seen people who have retired and they lose their connections, they lose, So what would you tell somebody about that's getting ready to retire?
First off, when you retire, take about 6 months just to decompress, and look around. Don't, and this is what was told to me, don't jump into a bunch of boards and committee assignments right away.
Right. That's probably
Take
fair.
your time, look around. And I had to do that. And so I spent 6 months just basically out on the farm, just, going out in the field and digging and planting and decompressing. Second thing is, after a while, start reaching out to other retirees. I had lunch yesterday, and if you want to think something scary, think of a big table full of retired lawyers having lunch. Oh my God. And it's just one lie after another. I mean, the stories, they get worse and worse every month. But these are guys that we went to war against each other. Many times, but
sure.
I'm sitting across from Kelly. I won't give his last name, but I'm sitting across from Kelly, and he and I used to go to war, but we're friends. We enjoy it. And so, I'm all in retirement, doing different things. A lot of retirees spend time with the grandchildren. I don't have children, so I don't have that. But then there's one fellow, and he's working with food for the homeless. Another one is doing some traveling. Another one is grandchildren. So we're doing different things. And so I would say take 6 months, then start having lunch with old friends, keep that connection, ask them what they're doing. And then look around. Even Daniel Stowe, making the Rotary connection, he came and John came and spoke at our Rotary Club, and I walked up to him afterwards and introduced myself and said, I want to volunteer. I do not want to be in charge. I don't want to make decisions. He said, can you mow grass? I said, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
But it was, again, a Rotary thing. And if you're not in a Rotary, get in a Rotary. That'll help you meet more people and more connections.
Yeah, that's a great one. I mean, I'm on the membership committee, and I appreciate you saying that. I don't know if I've said that enough for organizations like that. When it's an organization here, where we're talking to them, that is typically the last thing I ask. What are your current needs? What, volunteers, funding, what events you got coming up? So if nothing else, we want to get that word out. Yeah, Rotary is great. Yeah, we're always looking for quality members committed to, being involved in our community. Looking back on your career, both, professionally, community-wise, is anybody that you would consider a mentor, somebody that stood out, that led you down the road, or you saw and said, wow, that's somebody I want to emulate, or someone made a big impact on you?
Very timely question. I had a professor in law school.
Okay.
Leon Corbett, Jr. And he believed in me when some other people didn't. He gave me opportunities to prove myself. So much of what I was able to accomplish, I owe to the opportunities he gave me. And I realized that I should have walked into his office the last day of school and thanked him. And I didn't. Yeah. So I have recently arranged out at Daniel Stowe a bench in his honor.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to be putting it up in the next couple of weeks. And he's been contacted in Winston. He's very, very old now. He is, when I look back, yes, he was the one, and it took me 40-some years to actually look back and say, wait a minute. I owe him a thank you I never gave him, and this is my way of doing it.
Oh, that's a great point. I've had the good fortune to be able to do that with a couple of coaches and a couple of teachers, but there were several others who I didn't take that opportunity, and they're no longer with us. So, I regret, like a good example from First Methodist is Jim Ware. He was my middle school football and baseball coach. Made a huge impact on me, and I was able to, share that with him.
See, that means you were a better athlete than I was. I didn't have those coaches because I didn't make the team.
Well, in middle school, being good and on the team are not the same. Yeah, I mean, I was a decent baseball player, football, not so much. My career did not extend after middle school in football.
Okay.
But he was very impactful. From a matter of fact, he would be great to get on here to talk to about his education career. So, like, this has been good. We like to shift gears a little bit, and we'll make our guests endure a few questions, both personal and maybe a little more specific, community related. So I'm going to force you to answer a couple questions related to that. So, this is a podcast about Gaston County, in our area, not just Gaston County, but 90% of the individuals we speak to are here in Gaston County. So, besides the DA's office, as an example, and besides First Methodist Church, maybe, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
When I moved here, I was welcomed. And it's like soon after I got here, I started buying rental properties. And there was never any pushback from the business community. It was like, welcome. There's enough for everybody. I had lived in several cities where that was not the case.
Interesting. Okay.
But it was very, at the time, I was actually going to First Presbyterian.
Okay.
And very welcome, come be a part. It's always joked in Gaston County, don't go to a United Way meeting and say, what can I do? Or they'll make you chairman. But it's always been
I've been
open.
chairman. I've been chairman of United Way.
You know what I'm saying? I had no sense to stay away. It was always a very open and welcoming community. If you wanted to be a part of things, great. I never felt any, well, you're not from here, you can't be a part. And I think that was the key thing. Very open people and friendly.
Yeah, I would agree. I've been lucky to travel a lot, spent some time in Raleigh when I was in college at a different university than Locke's been describing. I agree.
My sister went there.
Oh, so she's the smart one of the family. Okay.
Obviously smarter than I am.
So, no, but I do appreciate that. Yeah, that the people here are great. And my point was, if I had gotten a job really early out of college, I might have gone somewhere else, but I think that would have just been temporary. I think I would have longed to come back here to Gaston County. And I've talked to enough people too that's not, every community is not like that, to your point, right? About when other places you've lived, and that wasn't necessarily the case. This is a very specific Gaston County question. What is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
I am so boring underneath it all. Vanilla.
Oh, wow.
That's my favorite ice cream is vanilla.
Yeah, that's not a common answer. Just, what the most surprising, most common answer has probably been grape.
Grape. I was going to say, I've heard about it, but
yeah.
Grape ought to be in a can.
Yeah, all Fanta aside,
or crushed and fermented.
Exactly. If you can't see, Amber's drinking a little Fanta grape soda today and taunting me with it because I don't have one. Ice cream is not my grape. No. Is not where I would think of grape, but a lot of people absolutely love it.
I grow grapes and I do not make them into soft drinks. They are crushed and fermented.
That's good too. So, if you could have coffee with one historical person, who would it be and why? And you can't say Jesus. Sorry.
No.
That's the
best
answer.
Cheating saying historical because she's still alive.
Well, that's fine.
Absolutely, it would be Condoleezza Rice.
Oh wow, yeah.
And
read a couple of her books.
To bring a couple of her contemporaries so I could just listen to them, because I would not be able to hang.
Listen
with
to them have a conversation
right.
about. Yeah,
because in other words,
good.
What could I talk to Condi Rice about? She is so far over. But she is fascinating. Hoover Institute. Anybody who's not listening to the Hoover Institute, she runs it and has some of the most brilliant, H.R. McMaster, all these brilliant
I would agree.
talkers. And she is the person I would just want to sit there and y'all talk, and I just want to listen.
Yeah, I've heard interviews with her, and I've seen a few, but I've heard interviews with her. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, she's. And that's a first, so I appreciate that.
As for Jesus, I talk to him all the time. Yeah. We have conversations. Believe me.
Yeah. So, Locke, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
My 20-year-old self was so full of piss and vinegar. He wouldn't have listened, but. And my 20-year-old self didn't look beyond getting out of college.
Yeah.
I came along with that, no, don't trust anybody over 30. So I never thought past 30 years of age.
30 was old, right, when we
It
were
was
20.
old. And so I'm not sure my 20-year-old self had to live it for himself.
I understand.
He had to learn it. He
Yeah.
had to go through it. I really don't know.
Okay. Yeah, what comes to mind, I already mentioned this, but when I look back at my 20-year-old self, my total and complete lack of perspective on anything important was, I was a professional at that, right? Just, and a little, obviously, self-absorbed. It's all about me. I'm at 20. I'm not sure. I'm still working on that one. But anything, any last words, anything you'd like to share before to make sure you get across before we close this episode out? This has been really a great conversation, Locke, as I knew it would be.
Well, the one area, and I'm not going to get into the DA's office, except hire good people, set the boundaries, and then let them know, go do their job, and if they screw up, just come and tell you.
Yeah.
It's not going to be just...
Yeah, that's great business advice.
That's the way I ran the office, and you got to trust them.
Yeah.
And they can't do their job looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, listen, to your point, we've got an unbelievable group of people here that Joe and I get to work with, and we're very lucky, and that is what we try to do. And things go better the less I'm involved, especially here, right, professionally. So, like, this has been really good. I appreciate. You mentioned that so many things that you're involved with, it involves so many people, and you're correct, and organizations that give you these opportunities. But I think I would also argue, though, that being the district attorney, it is, obviously you have a team, you have a group, but you also led that, and so that is somewhat, that's community service in my view, and our community was better for it. And so, and listen, and I know you personally, I mentioned earlier that you're kind of I'm fortunate to be able to hang around you for the last, 25 years or whatever it's been, between Rotary and church and so many other things. So, yeah, I appreciate that. It's a good example for those around you, especially the work you do with Rotary. And so, I'm just grateful for that. So, always pick a book, try to do a book recommendation or a quote or something for the week. You know what? I'm going to skip my quote because we're going to use that one that Locke said earlier. As a matter of fact, we'll put that one in the show notes too. You find that one on the internet, in those interwebs now for some information. But I recently read a book, and Locke talked a little bit about this concept. It's leadership. It's a book called Endurance by a gentleman named Alfred Lansing. And it's about Ernest Shackleton and his, I don't get into the whole story, it would take too long, but he was an explorer who went to Antarctica multiple times. And this particular expedition was between 1914 and 1916. And it was a story of leadership, perseverance, and just a really great story. There's a great documentary. I think currently it's on Disney Plus if you're into that. But it's a great story and worth the read if you like to hear inspirational people overcoming things and inspirational stories. And so, yeah, I would encourage that. Again, that's one of my favorites. So, Locke, thank you so much.
Well, thank you
for being here. It's been great.
I've enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So, to our listeners, thanks so much for taking time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And apparently, don't forget to give us a good 5-star rating, according to Amber, will help us get noticed. Thanks again to Locke for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amber Hauser from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.